What's up, comic and pop culture fans? James of Minhunter Comics here, and I've been doing some thinking about some writers that really should be on certain projects that aren't. If you go by these writers' tropes and traits, they seem like very obvious fits. Don't forget about our crazy 40,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm going to give you your choice of the first Laura Kinney, first Miles Morales, or first Spider-Gwen, all in perfect 9.8 slabs. Could be you. All you gotta do is like, subscribe, and comment on a video just like this one. What is a writer that you want to see handle a certain project? I'm going to get the list started with Brian Michael Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis' strengths lie in writing teenagers. Honestly, he's the best at it. If you've read Ultimate Spider-Man, it's probably one of the best Peter Parkers we've ever gotten. For whatever reason, he's got a knack for teenagers. Kind of a weird thing to say, but you know what? When it works, it works. So an obvious project for him would actually be over at DC. Tim Drake, the third and best Robin. There are a lot of similarities between Peter Parker and Tim Drake that you may not know. And a character like that, with the relationships that he has with Stephanie Brown, it would be really great to see someone who is able to handle that whole dynamic really well and get another run just like we did in the 90s. Next is going to go to Mark Waid, very famous for Kingdom Come and frankly so much more. And Mark Waid's greatest strength is the ability to handle legacy characters. Don't give him Miles Morales, don't give him Kamala Khan, don't give him a recent character. Give him one of the big time older legacy characters, and frankly I'd like to see him do Iron Man. He's honestly done many of the other greats. A nice consistent run from someone like Mark Waid would really boost some Iron Man sales, to be quite honest, and I think the quality would be pretty great. I'm going to give Robert Kirkman, the titan behind Invincible and The Walking Dead. His biggest strength is seeing something to the end. And I'm talking about a big, nice, long run. And I was thinking about characters that tend to only have miniseries once in a while. They don't really have full runs. And I remembered Shazam. What if we got Robert Kirkman to do a long run with payoffs and a lot of great character, good use of the Marvel family, because we know Robert Kirkman does well with a lot of characters. And I think the Shazam family and All Incorporated would be a good project for him to sink his teeth into. That was not a zombie pun. Next up would be Scott Snyder. Very famously, he spearheaded the New 52 Batman. And his greatest strength is honestly introducing new villains into a decades-old IP and having it actually stick. So Scott Snyder is actually quite good at creating new storylines and new villains, which can be sometimes tough. So I actually would like to see him do Hellboy. Think about it, a Scott Snyder Hellboy run. Breathe a little new life into Hellboy, get some new villains. Not to mention, if you got Capullo joining him again, a Capullo Snyder Hellboy run, it kind of almost writes itself. I would totally pick that up. I'm going to go with Tom Taylor here, very popular for writing a lot of recent titles right now, kind of most famously the Injustice arc. Now, Tom's biggest strength is he's the best juggler right now. I don't think anyone else can quite cram as many characters into a story and still be good quite like Tom does. He's able to handle giant casts of characters and still make a cohesive, awesome story. I would like to therefore see him handle the Avengers. If you were to send Tom Taylor over to Avengers, I'm sure we would get the Injustice treatment, and it would probably be a pretty memorable run for the ages. Next up would go to Ryan North. Personally know him from Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and the humor was spot on. So it's definitely a knack for it. In fact, it was critically acclaimed for its use of humor. I've even mentioned Unbeatable Squirrel Girl a few times in my recommended reading videos. Well, I think a natural fit for him, even though the humor style has been a bit more PG, I would love to see him tackle a Marvel funny character like Deadpool. I think a Ryan North Deadpool series would be really good and maybe even refreshing. Next up, another popular writer right now is Chip Zdarski. In fact, you can't go too far without seeing his name pop up. Very popular for a lot of creator-owned series, some Image titles like New Burn, but also he did work with Batman. Chip doesn't shy away from the dark side of things. Chip is very good at short but meaningful, darker storylines, and because of that darker, we're going to give him Justice League Dark. I think that he would crush that. A Chip Zdarsky Justice League Dark run just sounds right. Next up is going to be Kelly Thompson, who is a very recent writer in recent years. You know her from Kate Bishop's. She very much improved Birds of Prey, and she's been very vocal about women in comics. And I think she would be up to the task to giving a little light to some female characters that have kind of taken a back seat. I would love to see her do a Black Widow run. Judging by her Birds of Prey work, I think that there's plenty of room for her to do a great Black Widow run. It might not be as dark a tone as we might be used to, but I think she would put a nice spin on it. Next up is going to be Tom King, most famous for Mr. Miracle, as well as his extensive run on Batman. Tom King's strengths lie in when he's given a 12-issue arc. Every time this guy does a 12-issue maxi series, I pick it up. It's been amazing. He is the king of trauma. And I was thinking about characters that have experienced a lot of trauma in Marvel. And some of the obvious answers are Black Widow or Scarlet Witch, both of which I think Tom King would do a great job on. Plus, he did the whole Vision run, so he's got that Scarlet Witch connection there. Maybe Scarlet Witch, maybe Black Widow. I would be down for either. Next is going to be James Tynion, or Tynion. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Very famous for his Detective Comics run, as well as Something is Killing the Children, and frankly, a lot more. And his greatest strength right now is I think he has been the most recent consistent writer. I actually don't know if he's done anything bad. All the publishers seem to really trust him, and I think he's earned their trust. Pretty much everything you read from him is at least going to be good, if not excellent. I think he can handle a bigger task, like such a big task as Amazing Spider-Man. A James Tynion Amazing Spider-Man run, a little scary, but if he's up for it, I think that would be a big win. Next is going to go to Ram V. This is a really recent dude. I actually didn't know him before he did the Swamp Thing. It wasn't even Alec Holland, and still it was one of the best Swamp Thing runs ever written. So that's pretty impressive to do. I'm actually going to keep him in that wheelhouse. Don't go to Marvel. Stick with the DC thing that you got going on. I liked your Detective Comics run. He definitely isn't afraid of the darker side of things. Put him on Hellblazer, man. Hellblazer, some sort of John Constantine story. I think Ram V will do an awesome job. Next is going to go to Donnie Kates, another guy who doesn't mind doing a little bit of dark stuff here. Very famous for his Absolute Carnage Venom run, as well as Thor. This guy likes aliens, and he likes handling big, powerful characters. Because of that, I would actually say that a perfect fit would actually be Darkseid. Can you imagine a Donnie Kates Darkseid run? Maybe a maxi series, maybe a full run? Dude. Not to mention, Darkseid needs his own run anyway, and if Donnie Kates were to head that would be crazy. I'm going to go with Al Ewing, very popular on Avengers and Defenders. He put a lot of life into Defenders, which was a seemingly kind of quiet team. I'm going to keep him in that team element. He has that kind of ability to revitalize a sort of quiet team-based title. So I think he could breathe some real new life into Legion of Superheroes. Kind of writes itself. If you know Al Ewing's work and if you've read Defenders, it's not a skip and a hop to say that he would do Legion justice. I'm going to go with Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison's all over the place, probably best known for Batman, but they have a lot of works to be proud of at this point. Because Grant Morrison likes the weird element of comics and also the sci-fi element, Adam Warlock, Quasar, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think maybe stick with single characters. Plus, when's the last time we had a great Warlock run? Could be fun. Jerry Dugan, very popular for Deadpool, pretty much almost like the prominent Deadpool writer of the last decade. Guy knows his humor, and I was thinking in my head, what is like the DC equivalent to Deadpool? And I remembered a character that essentially is almost never used. And a lot of you guys maybe even don't know this character, but Jerry Dugan would crush Ambush Bug. In fact, if he was behind it, it could probably end up being the definitive Ambush run. It's right in his wheelhouse. He would do a great job. I'm going to give Jonathan Hickman, who is most famous for the Avengers, Justice League of America. I've mentioned a couple writers on this list that are able to handle bigger casts, but clearly Hickman's able to do it. And one of Hickman's biggest things is he's good at planting seeds that you think aren't going to be important, that later down the line come back and you're like, oh snap. So it's really good to have him handle a team ensemble with big payoffs down the line. Get him on Justice League. That would be super cool. Let's do a little espionage. Let's bring Ed Brewbaker here in, very famous for Captain America. I have an extremely specific one for him on this one. I want to see a Batman and Detective Chimp team-up miniseries headed by Ed Brewbaker. Ed Brewbaker understands the detective side of comics, and so we know he knows Batman, so it would be cool to see him handle something like Detective Chimp, or hell, maybe even like Sherlock Holmes Batman miniseries. Something in that detective angle would suit his needs perfectly. I'd love to see it happen. I'm going to give Gail Simone, very popular for Secret Six. By the way, if you haven't read that, do yourself a favor, it's quite good. And Gail understands the campiness, and not the bad side of it. She definitely understands its use in the medium. I would give her something kind of goofy, like if they were going to do another Batman 66, something with intentional camp in it, but also I would say Plastic Man. Maybe like a Mr. Mixia's Spitlick run, headed by Gail Simone, would definitely be pretty awesome. She's been busy as hell these last few years, but what's another one thrown on her plate? Next is going to be Jeff Lemire, very popular over at Image, very popular for Sweet Tooth, has been made into a Netflix show, Little Monsters, all kinds of awesome books. I would like to see him handle The Phantom Stranger or The Spectre. He understands the spooky, almost Tim Burton-esque type of world, and I think that style would suit itself well with some of DC's more spooky, theatrical characters like Phantom Stranger, maybe The Question even, or Spectre. Rick Remender, very well known for Deadly Class as well as Uncanny X-Force. And we got another guy that likes to put characters through the ringer here. So since he knows that darker side of things, I would like to see him handle specifically dark characters. Keep him at Marvel, I say. Blade or Morbius. Blade or Morbius, I think, would lend themselves really well to his particular writing style. And if you know his work, it kind of seems to follow that perfectly. Next is going to be Greg Rucka, one of my favorite writers, actually. Popular for Lazarus as well as Gotham Central. This is a guy that knows DC, particularly Batman and the Batman family, quite well. I would actually say because of how much characterization he put into Gotham, let's see it again but with Bloodhaven. I think he could do a really good Nightwing. Honestly, Nightwing's been pretty great, so I don't want them to dethrone the team that's working on it now anytime soon, but when things come to a close, I think Greg Rucka should step in and do a Nightwing run. I think it would be awesome. Or a Nightwing and Batgirl, something like that. It'd be so good. Second to last is going to be Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is the king of big events. This dude is the continuity slut. He loves detail, the attention to detail and making sure everything matches. And when you read Infinite Crisis or Green Lantern, and when you see that one thing in issue 1 had a repercussion in issue 40, you start to become a continuity slut yourself. It's fun to see it. Everyone likes to see it. And that extreme attention to detail lends himself to being one of the best crisis writers or whatever DC big events are going on. Well, I would say keep that vein, but toss him over to Marvel. Why can't we have a big Marvel event? It doesn't even have to be Avengers, X-Men, whatever. Literally, whatever team you want to do, Jeff Johns, you've earned our trust. Handle a Marvel event of some type. Either that or just be chief editor all around for Marvel for a bit. That would be refreshing. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to go to me, who is best known for absolutely nothing. I should write Captain Carrot. I actually do have a full script already laid out. I've got some awesome ideas. So, DC, let's have a chat. Talk to me, baby. I got, you're not doing anything with Captain Carrot? I got you. I got a cool idea. All right, guys, this is a dream list of mine for all these writers that I think have an either obvious or not so obvious character or team that they should be writing for. What are some of the ones that you would like to see? Don't forget about that 40,000 subscriber giveaway. Keep on hunting. I'll see you at the next video. Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.